Taylor would be down at the end over there. Well, I think we've moved in a little bit. Staff, we're ready? Okay. I'd like to call to order the June 5th, 2023 Richland County Planning Commission meeting. Staff, please confirm the following. In accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, a copy of the agenda was sent to the news media, persons requesting notification, and posted on the bulletin board located in the County Administration Building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Staff, can you please take attendance for today's meeting?
Those in attendance for today's meeting, Yonke,
Here.
Ryerson, Johnson, Dennis,
Here.
Metz,
Here.
Durant,
Here.
Taylor, Turks, Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. Sirks has his items up here, so he should be returning. And Mr. Taylor did reach out to me, said he was going to be unable to come on today, but sends his best wishes. I will start with our public announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the June 5th, 2023 Richland County Planning Commission meeting. As planning commissioners, we are concerned residents of Richland County who volunteer our time to thoroughly review and make recommendations to County Council. Our recommendations are to approve or deny zoning map amendment requests. Per Title VI, Chapter 29 of the SC Code of Laws, Planning Commission may also prepare and revise plans and programs for the development or redevelopment of unincorporated portions of the county. The county's land development code rewrite process conducted last year is an example of this. Once again, we are a recommending body to County Council, and they will conduct their own public hearing and take official votes to approve or deny map amendments and text amendments on a future date to be published by the county. Council typically holds zoning public hearings on the fourth Tuesday of the month. Please check the county's website for updated agendas, dates, and times. Please take note of the following guidelines for today's meeting. Please turn off or silence any cell phones. Audience members may quietly come and go as needed. Applicants are allowed up to 2 minutes to make statements. Citizens signed up to speak are allowed up to 2 minutes each. Redundant comments should be minimized. Please only address remarks to the commission and do not expect the commission to respond to questions from the speaker in a back and forth style. That is not the purpose of this meeting. Please, no audience speaker exchanges. No audience demonstrations or other disruptions to the meeting are permitted, nor are comments from anyone other than the speaker at the podium. Please remember the meeting is being recorded. Please speak into the microphone and give your name and address. Abusive language is inappropriate and will not be tolerated. Please don't voice displeasure or frustration at a recommendation while the Planning Commission is still conducting business. If you have any questions or concerns, you may contact the Richland County Planning Department staff. This will now move us on to item number 3, additions or deletions to the agenda. Are there any motions for additions or deletions to the agenda? Let's also deal with any motions to amend the agenda. I noticed that we have a couple page numbers incorrect, staff. Just minor updates. For number 6, actually number 5, letter C. That information for the text amendment we'll speak about is found on page 53 of our packet. It was just flipped because then for my chairman's report, pages 49 through 51. Yeah. Commissioners, did you notice any other issues with our packet today? And were there any motions to amend, make changes? Okay, if there are none, we can move on to item number 4, which is the approval of our minutes. This is from our last meeting. The staff provided the commission with copies of the transcript of the commission's May 1st, 2023 meeting. Do any commissioners have any comments or concerns regarding these transcripts? If there are none, the chair makes a motion to approve the minutes unless there's an objection. Do I have a second?
Second.
Staff, please take a vote.
All right, those in favor of the motion to approve the May 1st, 2023 minutes. Grady,
Aye.
Search,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Metz.
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Johnson, Yonke.
Aye. Thank you, staff.
Mr.
Well, yes. Yes, Mr. Price.
Okay, I'm not sure about the appropriateness of this, the additions and deletions, but you will note on each case. On each case, it has the zoning public hearing date is for June 27th, 2023.
Yes.
This is a little unique, kind of a trend, I think, with county council members. In which all of the council members that are representatives of each of these cases, or the districts that have each of these cases, they will, their intent is to defer at the June 27th meeting. And so with that being said, these cases will not be heard until July 25th. I believe that's the 4th Tuesday. That's when the next zoning public hearing will be.
Thank you, Mr. Price. I'll just copy that for the public. Earlier, I stated that council typically holds their zoning public hearings on the 4th Tuesday of the month. You're saying that county council will typically defer that for this month, and then these cases that we hear today will then be heard.
Yeah, so based
July.
on on discussions with the council members that represent these districts, that it was, since it was their intent to defer to allow a community meeting, or at least some type of town hall to discuss these further. We've decided to go ahead and move these to the July meeting as opposed to posting property and then having to go back out and put deferred on them.
We have any questions for staff?
Here.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
What was that date again?
July 25th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dennis. That we will move on to item number 5, our consent agenda. So I'm going to explain the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an action item that allows the commission to approve road names and map amendment requests where the staff recommends approval. No one from the public has signed up to speak against the amendment, or no member of the commission is in need of further discussion on the request. Today, we have Mr. Commissioner Grady. Which cases do we have people signed up to speak, or staff recommends disapproval we need to remove from our consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, based on those items, we will be removing item 2, case number 23-014 MA. Number 4, case 23-016 MA. Case 5, 23-017 MA. And case 6, 23-018 MA from the consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Grady. So we also have a text amendment under letter C. Question, staff. Do we remove that from our consent agenda and hear about it?
I will suggest we go ahead and remove that.
We're also going to remove letter C. So just to make sure we are correct here, our consent agenda. The chair makes a motion to amend the consent agenda so that cases 5A 2, 4, 5, 6, and letter C are removed. So the motion is to approve the consent agenda with the letter A road names and B 1, case number 1, and case number 3. Do I have a second?
Second.
With that, staff, can we,
The motion,
the motion is to approve the consent,
who made the motion?
Chairman Yonke, that's me. Thank you. Please take the vote whenever you're ready.
Those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, the consent agenda? Grady,
Aye.
Search,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Metz, Dennis,
Aye.
Johnson, Frierson,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye. Thank you, staff. With that, case number 23-012, as well as case 23-015 have been approved inside of our consent agenda, and those will be passed on to county council as recommended approval, not on June 27th meeting, but what you said, July 25th.
Correct.
Thank you. So moving along inside of item number 5, our map amendment B2, case number 23-014 MA. Staff, can you please provide the information? Thank you.
All right, as stated, the next item is case 23-014 MA. The applicant is David Cook. Location is on Hollingshed Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone 2 parcels which comprise 5.63 acres from rural RU to residential single-family low density, which is RSLD. Upon staff's review of the request as compared to, in comparison with the recommendations and guidelines of the comprehensive plan, we found that it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan, thus, and was also found it to be in character with the existing residential development pattern in that area, along with the zoning designations. So thus staff recommends approval.
Thank you, staff. Ms. Frierson, how are you doing? Okay. Would you please read any names that are signed up to speak?
The first person we have who signed up to speak is the applicant, Mr. David Cook.
Mr. Cook, you're going to have 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address.
Good
Thank you.
evening. David Cook, 2271 Hollingshed Road. The only reason that the request for rural to residential low density is to add a small detached structure along the side of my property there. That's along the left-hand side of the property. Right now, the rural zoning setback requirement is 20 feet, and we need to go back to 5 feet for the residential low density. And that's the only reason for it.
Anything else you'd like to share?
I'd appreciate everybody's consideration with it. I have spoken with all of my neighbors there on contiguous lots, either stopping by my home or text message or calls, and I've had no opposition of it. Everybody's for it. That'd be it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Okay.
We have an additional person who has signed up to speak on the opposing side, Ms. Kim Murphy.
Thank you. Kim Murphy, 154 Old Laurel Lane in Chapin. And I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I just wanted to hear what was being proposed. And I had heard that it was to do something that was not developed at a high density. So I do appreciate that. But I was wondering if there's another opportunity that the developer, the owner could use instead of having the rezoning take place. It kind of sets a precedent to do that. And potentially, not that this would happen, but it allows it to be an entrance to the 50-acre parcel behind it that potentially could be used to develop and without any examination of the effect on the infrastructure. I just would like for you to consider another zoning opportunity if there is one, instead of the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we do not have additional people wishing to speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Fryerson. This item is now open up on the floor for discussion and for any questions for staff. Item is open on the floor also for any motions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Cirques.
make a motion to, excuse me, to forward request 23-014 MA to County Council with a recommendation for approval.
I second the motion.
Staff with a motion for approval and a second. Can you conduct a vote?
All right, motion is for approval for case 23-014 MA. Those in favor, Durant,
Aye.
Cirques,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Johnson, Frierson,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you, staff. Case 23-014 moves on. Recommendation of approval. Move right along to number 4, case number 23-016. Staff, please share the information with us.
Okay. Again, the next item is case 23-016 MA. The applicant of record on that time was Raymond Perkins. But the school, for this particular case, the case will be represented by someone else. The location is 2812 Rollison Road. The acreage is about 12.09 acres, and the applicant is requesting to rezone from residential single-family low density, RSLD, to office and institutional, which is OI. On staff's review, and looking how this, does the request meet the objectives and guidelines of the comprehensive plan, that we found that it does not meet, the objectives, yes, principally, as we like to say. Thus staff recommends disapproval of this request. However, there's another provision within the comprehensive plan for the neighborhood medium density designation, where it talks about uses that are integrated to better serve surrounding residential properties through pedestrian access. And some of those are things such as churches, libraries, institutional type uses that people may want to access. But because we don't know exactly what the request is at this time, we just wanted to make sure we put that in there as part of the staff report. And maybe you'll find a little more information that would assist you in making your recommendation for this case, once you hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Anything else? If not, we'll move on to anyone signed up to speak. Ms. Frierson?
Under applicant, it just says Richland 1, so I don't have the name of the person.
Hello, sir.
Hi, I'm Craig Witherspoon, Superintendent Richland 1. I did sign a sheet over there. Okay, all right. Again, thank you all for an opportunity to present to you today. This is for an early childhood learning center on the said property. And what's being offered there is the same thing as offered at any school in the district, in terms of a health room, in terms of those types of things, support services that you would find at any school that we have. The operations are during the day, which is at any school that we have. We have health screenings at schools. We have sometimes dental screenings, those types of things. And there's also property, there's a park near there. There's a bookstore that's on that corner and other things as well. And there was a community meeting that was held on March 13th with those surrounding and those individuals were in support of the Early Learning Center. And we would just ask the committee's consideration today.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else signed up to speak?
That's the only person signed up.
Thank you, Ms. Ryerson. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff on this? It's also opened up for discussion. Commissioner Johnson?
Bryce, I guess my understanding, you said that there is a lesser intense zoning that would still allow them to move forward with what they intend to do. That discussed with the applicant?
Oh, no, sir. Let me clarify. All right, so the comprehensive, according to the comprehensive plan, within the neighborhood medium density, there are different sections as it discusses whether our request would be in compliance with the objectives and guidelines. So initially, when we talk about the land use and character, which is found on page 26, it talks about non-residential development may be considered for location along main road corridors and within a contextually appropriate distance from the intersection of a primary arterial. So just based on that language itself, staff recommended disapproval of this request. However, apologize because it doesn't look like that section is included on here. But within that same designation of the comprehensive plan, it also talks about, I think I have it, I'm quoted here, where uses that are integrated to better serve surrounding residential properties through pedestrian access and are in character with the institutional and recreational, and in this case, they would be in character with the institutional and recreational uses that are adjacent to the property. Staff wanted to make sure we pointed that out because, again, based on hearing what it may be. So again, while we, as a staff, we typically don't like to talk about what the applicant is requesting itself, because of course the zoning designations each allow for a multitude of uses. But in this particular case, they were looking to place a school here, an educational facility. So an educational facility will more than likely fall into a use that's integrated to better serve surrounding residential properties through pedestrian access, very similar to if this was a park or a library or some other type of institutional use.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Staff, would you mind zooming the map out a little bit? I'm pretty familiar with this area. This intersection there's a church across the street. There's a park across the street and a bookstore.
Chairman, can you put the zoning layer on top of that?
Yes, staff, can we do that? This area does see a lot of traffic for a residential area. Any other questions for staff, commissioners, comments, thoughts? Floor is also open for any motions.
I have a comment.
Yes,
Um,
Commissioner Fryerson.
And I don't want to make a motion until after my other commissioner has an opportunity to express himself. I was looking at the conclusion and I see wherein it does not meet the letter of the law, or not law, the comprehensive plan completely. However, the part about the zoning designation being integrated to better serve the surrounding area. In listening to Dr. Witherspoon, Child Development Center, Early Childhood Development Center would definitely be, in my opinion, consistent with that which would improve the surrounding area. And therefore, if I need to make a motion, I will make a motion in favor of this, but I definitely know that early childhood is crucial and people have a great need for centers that are safe. And so I would be in favor of this motion being sent to county council with a recommendation for approval. But again, I'll wait until the other commissioners have had an opportunity to speak, if they so desire.
Vice Chair. I agree with your train of thought. My problem is that I just think we still, for the record, just need to note that this is contrary to the in so much of relying on the applicant's intended use as the basis for this. If it was any other applicant, my vote would have been denial. But because of who the applicant is and who they're stating it, we're just going against what we would traditionally do. And I just need that to be on the record. So it voted.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. My thoughts, as a resident of the area, and I asked to zoom the map out, that there are other uses right there at the intersection of a park, a church, a few different churches as you zoom out. And there's a lot of traffic in that area where, what's its own? It's RSLD as it stands. Single family home would be more appropriate there than an office or institution.
But I didn't hear you.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Johnson. My feelings are I wouldn't, with it being RSLD as it currently stands, I'm not sure if a single family home would be better suited there or office or institution with that level of traffic. And Kaufman Road Park is there. They just improved the area with a crosswalk. It looks like staff has pulled up some information. Ms. Price.
We were just wanted, because it wasn't included in your packet, we wanted you to see the section of for a neighborhood medium density designation, just so you can see that language. And it's, Tom, if you could make it larger, under the recommended land uses for secondary land uses that are deemed to be appropriate. And Tom, Mickey, you can go to that section. I guess the last sentence. This is that section I was referencing. Actually would be the last two sentences of places of worship. And so again, to go along with what Mr. Johnson is saying, again, because as I stated earlier, typically we don't discuss a specific use. When I think y'all have been doing this with us long enough to know we try to stay away from that. We talk about the specific zoning, but again, there are just sometimes who the applicant is and what they're proposing that we do kind of look at it a little further.
Madam Vice Chair, if you want to move your motion forward, you would have a friendly second coming.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
Question for staff, actually. Mr. Price, am I to understand the zoning as it currently exists, as it's being proposed, is that or is that not in conjunction with the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
Question for probably staff or the applicant. Does Richland One already own this parcel?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner
I
Fryerson.
have a question of the applicant too. We heard the term school.
Excuse
Is
me.
the intended use an elementary school or just an early childhood center? Could you elaborate, please?
Yes, ma'am. This intended use is an early learning center, birth to 4, birth to 5. So it would be young people. And the majority, if we're talking birth to 4, would be dropped off, and then services would be provided just like they would at any early learning center during that time.
Thank you.
Just for the public to show the fairness, I have a stopwatch up here. He only used about a minute the first time, and another 20 seconds there. So we will give everyone their 2 minutes.
Yes.
So the chair opens this up on the floor for an official motion to be made. And then we can look for a second and conduct a vote either way.
And I'd like to make a motion that we, as a planning commission, move case 23-016 forward to county council with a recommendation of approval. And in that, this is going against staff. We're supposed to state a reason. And the reason is that, in my opinion, this particular request is one wherein it would improve the surrounding community.
Thank you, Commissioner Fryerson. Do we have a second? That's a second from Commissioner Johnson. Thank you. With that, staff, can you conduct a vote?
All right. Those in favor of the motion to approve case 23-016, which goes against staff's recommendation based on the comprehensive plan, for the reason of that will improve the surrounding area. Those in favor? Johnson, Dennis,
Aye.
Metz.
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Cirques,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Frierson,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, staff. That item moves on as approval to county council. With that, we are moving along to item number 5. Inside of item number 5. Case number 23-017 MA. Staff, would you provide the information? Thank you.
Again, next item, of course, stated is 23-017 MA. The applicant is Blake Valentine. The location is on, what's it? We have it as Mount Vernon Church Road. It's actually near the corner of Mount Vernon Church Road and Broad River. The applicant is proposing to rezone 3 parcels, which total 50.78 acres from rural, which is RU, to RSE, which is single family residential estate. On review of the comprehensive plan, which designates this area as neighborhood low density, it's been determined that the request meets the objectives and guidelines of that zoning designation, of that comprehensive plan designation. And for that reason, staff recommends approval.
Thank you, staff. Ms. Commissioner Fryerson, do we have anyone signed up to speak? A 1-7.
We do. The first person is the applicant, Blake, looks like Valentine.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Sure, Blake Valentine, 322 Justin Rogers Court, Lexington, South Carolina. So yeah, Blake Valentine here on behalf of Pulte Homes. We came across this property from the seller who's used to be a farm. They're no longer deciding to farm the property, so reached out to sell it. So in reviewing it, we, with the current RU zoning, we thought it best to seek the RSE zoning after talking with the staff here. So we think it's appropriate in relationship to currently you can do set about 70 lots there. With the RSE zoning, you can achieve about 110, which is all we're asking for. We have been talking with Councilman Branham. He has asked to do a town hall on this to speak with residents of the area, which we do plan to do. Questions for me?
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Have a number of people who signed up to speak against. The first person listed is Kim Murphy.
Good afternoon again, Kim Murphy, 154 Old Laura Lane. The 3 tracts of land totaling 51 acres is actually divided by the new frontage road and Mount Vernon Church Road, leaving several parcels detached from the main parcel that appear to be undevelopable. So based on what property is left for development after those small parcels are deducted, that would lead to a much higher density than the agenda would indicate, especially with the addition of density that could be obtained from setting aside open space or land that could not be developed. Also, the agenda notes the DOT's road condition for Broad River Road and indicates that it's a level C, but the agenda does not indicate the road condition for Mount Vernon Church Road, which is, except for a small area, a narrow, curvy farm to market road with a railroad crossing that is already overburdened with traffic with no improvements planned. Also, Spring Hill Master Plan in this area was passed in 2014, which purpose was to protect rural and the environment. One of the reasons for this is that we have Lake Murray on one side, and then we have the Broad River Road on the other. So in between is this narrow strip of land of rural that is trying to be protected so we can protect the water bodies on either side. Both are used for drinking water. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Next person is Jason Pittman.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Jason Pittman. I live at 1212 Canterfield Road in Chapin, which is very close to this piece of property. I'm here today to speak in opposition to the request that is being advanced here today. I so respectfully disagree with the staff recommendation. This is consistent with the use of the area. The plan, the comprehensive plan for this area provides for low density. The requested rezoning actually indicates that it's for use in low density to medium density. So as indicated by the applicant, they are able to put 70 homes in this location. They are able to do residential development, which would be consistent with the area. The RU zoning designation importantly has in it a intention and an obligation by the commission and the county council to preserve open space and farmland and to protect and encourage the integrity of existing rural areas. Changing a designation that is historically rural and surrounded by all rural property does not protect the integrity of the area as is intended by the rural designation. Importantly, there are not other designations in the zoning code that mandate the protection of areas such as this. I am an owner of one of the pieces of farmland close to this tract. And so I'm not saying that residential development isn't appropriate, but it can be accomplished under the existing zoning designation and no change is required. There is no compelling reason for the increased density, which would not protect this rural area. I would note that there are probably a number of my neighbors and constituents that can't be here because this is at 3 o'clock when most folks are out working. So take into account my comments, please, respectfully, and I would ask that you advance this with a recommendation for disapproval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Real quick, Ms. Reister, I also want to make known that we had in our packets several requests for this one, information. Bryce, do you want to mention that since you put it in our packets?
Sure. Yes, sir. We received some emails in opposition. Well, I'm sorry, we received emails in response to the request. And so staff, because it would directed to the planning commission, we compiled those into one document, about 3 pages, and we included that as your package. So although they did not, come in to speak, their comments regarding this request, it had been received by the planning commission.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And again, anytime anyone from the public would like to send in information, we appreciate that. Send it out to the planning commission, the staff, and they do get it to us. Okay. Commissioner Brierson, please continue.
The next person is, it looks like Brant, gosh, Bajaldo, I'm sorry, Bajalbo. I apologize.
Yes, I'm Brian Masalgo, live at 11447 Broad River Road, about less than half a mile from the proposed zoning change. Other than Broad River Road being a very busy road, I don't see adding, 100 houses helping the traffic out there at all. When I pull out of my driveway during rush hour, I can't make a left-hand turn. It's impossible. The road is very busy. And other than that, I was under the impression that we were in a rural transition zone. So I had received a letter from Richland County proposing to or suggesting that our property, which is a flag lot, we only have a driveway that's on Broad River Road, considering rezoning it to RTU, which is rural transition. And I read the parameters for that, and it sounds like a good idea to go from the urban area, closer to the exit 97, and transition to rural, past the schools, and maintain the beauty of the area. So I don't see putting this many houses over there as any kind of a transition. So, thank you.
Sure.
Excuse me, would you spell your last name?
Sure. Mosolgo.
Okay, thank you.
What was being referenced there is the 2021 Land Development Code that is still in progress with County Council. Ms. Frierson?
Next person is Joanne Brucker. Okay,
Thank you.
The next person is Melissa, looks like Deal.
Hi, my name's Melissa Dilly and I live at 2130 Washlever Road. We've lived there for 18 years, moved from Columbia, from Irmo, the cities, to get out into a rural environment. In that 18 years, you cannot get on Broad River Road. There are no street lights on Broad River Road or on Kennerly Road or sidewalks for anyone to maintain unless you go all the way back to Irmo area at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The peak exit all the way to this property is backed up for the 2 miles that it's there. 5 o'clock rush hour, it's still backed up for the 2 miles to even get close to my home. I have to literally take the Kennerly Road route to get home to my house. Again, as this gentleman said earlier, you cannot turn either way on Broad River Road now. It's meant to be rural. Most people that live there are there for that reason, to have privacy, comfort in their own, and not all this noise and traffic. And the schools can't handle it. We've just built a new school there, and it's already overburdened with people. I definitely oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person is John Blount.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Just wanted to piggyback off of Ms. Mercer up there.
Yeah, please see your name.
Oh, I
and your address.
apologize. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you.
Name is John Blunt, 142 Almafini Lane, in Chapin. I just wanted to piggyback off them, referencing the traffic and Broad River and how bad it is. I'm a resident of the big neighborhood you see there, and it is a very huge neighborhood in the pink there at Portrait Hill. Currently, there's 491 houses. At that time that the data was ran in February 16, 2021, there was still 130 houses to be completed in there. So the data is roughly skewed when you say you have 10,600 average daily trips, if you will. And it's providing a level of service to see. You add that to what is now in Portrait Hill, and the fact that that was during COVID, there's going to be more trips every single day through there. And judging by everybody's response, it's already backed up 2 miles from the peak exit all the way to this property. So it's my recommendation that you review the data and then pass on a disapproval to the commission, to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next person is Terry Roll.
Afternoon.
Noon.
My name is Terry Derek Rowell. I live at 3635 Kennerly Road. Got me now?
Thank
Okay. My ancestors settled this land. We are the original Dutch Fork line that have lived here all our lives. As I have grown up, they are taking away my way of life. I have been to meetings back at the Kate Center a few years back where they asked me what I wished my land to be and the people surrounding it. And we all said rural. Rural does not mean 2.2 houses per acre. Rural does not mean coming in and stripping all the hardwoods off of a piece of property, leveling the ground. Mother Nature is taking great care of the runoff now. We do not need holding ponds. We do not want to see houses with one little tiny tree planted with some shrubs along the side. Now, if you will look at that map and you will follow the parcels around that area, starting on Broad River Road, we do have a part over there with a little piece that will not be developed where there is a light industrial place that has been there since 1981. I don't even know if they had zoning at that time. Following from there, you get a parcel of 9.58 acres, 6.07 acres, 6.83 acres, 6.83 acres, 3.52 acres, very small parcel, 3.45 acres, 3.30 acres, 3.17 acres, 8.10 acres, 8.49 acres, 8.50 acres, coming on around 6.64 acres, 4.82 acres, 4.44 acres. There is a small spot on the corner that I actually sold off of my piece of property. Going over to my piece of property, we have 3.52 acres. My mother, brother own 22.9
Let me hear your final
acres.
thoughts, ma'am, just so we can keep the time fair.
Well, my point is that this does not fit in with our area at all. It does not improve our surroundings. It destroys our surroundings. It increases noise pollution. It increases traffic. It does not fit in with the surrounding area. We like the way we live, and we invite you to come to our area and look at it and see how beautiful it is. And if you would go out and look at these areas you have to rezone, I think you would agree this area does not need to be rezoned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next person is Jimmy Smith.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, can we pause for a moment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Shall we continue? Yes. All right, come on down. Please state your name and address.
My name's Jimmy Smith. I live at 1181 Joe Metz Road. This listed as Little Mountain, but we're in Richland County because of Postal Service. I've lived and worked in this area for between 40 and 47 years. Worked there for 25 years, but I've lived here in this general area for almost 47 years. There's been a lot of change. I understand progress makes change. But the roads that are out there now, which I call in just about daily about repairs needed in these roads. We can't get the roads repaired like they should be. The infrastructure is just not there for more traffic. I don't know how familiar y'all are with that area, but has been stated, the number of vehicles that's out there, the number of houses that's already out there. We can't keep up with what we got now. I don't know how we're going to be able to keep up with more homes out there. So it's my wish and my wife's wish that we disapprove of any additional homes that are going to be built there or anywhere else in this general area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Next person is Mike Ritchie.
Y'all. If I heard right, y'all volunteer for this?
Please state your name and address as
All right,
everyone
I'm
gets
sorry.
started. Yes.
Mike
Thank you.
Ritchie, 100 Backecker Road.
Thank
And that's a dirt road right around the corner from this development. And if I understand, y'all volunteer for this? If y'all do, we appreciate it.
No.
But we've been there since the late 60s on this 30-acre tract of land. And just like Terry over there, we've seen it all build up around us. And we just like our little community, like it the way it is. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out today. And we appreciate everyone coming out today. We know 3 o'clock on a Monday is hard to come out. Thanks. Ms. Ryerson.
Next person is Lisa Epting.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Epting. I live at 2409 Freshly Mill Road, and I am not a public speaker, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I am here because I recommend disapproval for all of those that have come before me, as they've mentioned. My concern is also the safety. I don't know if y'all realize that there is a school right there across from where this parcel is. I am very concerned about the safety of me, my neighbors, the student drivers. It is a lot of traffic. You really need to see it. And like they were talking about, it backs up in the mornings and the afternoon. And I always tell my husband, hey, I'm leaving to go take my life in my hands to go to the store or wherever I'm going to go. But I'm very concerned about the traffic and what this is going to add. I would like to keep it rural for that reason. I really would like us to leave it that way. I think everybody understands you're always going to have growth, but it does need to be responsible growth. We need to make sure that there's the infrastructure that we need. Our roads need to be better if we're going to add anything to that rural area. I've lived here all my life. I started out, I grew up on Kennerly Road, got married, and I moved to Freshly Mill Road. So I've lived here all my life. And we have seen much growth. We've got the school that came in. We've got Portrait Hill that came in. We've got other subdivisions. And people, it is scary to watch people try to come out of their driveways. I mean, you are actually scared for somebody. And the other day, just yesterday, somebody pulled out really fast. And my husband said, oh my gosh, they about hit us. And I said, yeah, because they can't get out because of the traffic. And we really, really do not need any more housing develops until we can do some improvements. If you want growth, let's be responsible. Let's look at our infrastructure. Let's keep it rural. And so I recommend disapproval. Thank you very much for your time.
Did very well, public speaking. Thank you. Good job.
Next, Cliff Corley.
Thank you. Thank you. My name's Cliff Corley. I'm at 211 Holiday Road, Chapin, South Carolina. And I also appreciate you guys volunteering for this. So my situation is much like everybody else has already said. But one thing that hasn't been mentioned is there's a huge contingent of cyclists out here. This is a huge cycling area out Wash Lever, out towards Little Mountain and stuff. But the thing is I know you're going to have growth. I get it. But we have a 2-lane road. And since I built out there in 2009, excuse me, we've added a middle school, a high school, Cates Center. We've added all those things. We've added Portrait Hill. Someone mentioned Portrait Hill. And unless we're going to have another hardscrabble road situation where there's all kinds of problems with that, I think it's a good example to go back and look at that problem and say, hey, perhaps we need to build the infrastructure first before we allow people to come in there. Because I think that project's $30 million over or something, I believe. It might be outdated information, but I looked it up last time I came because there was another parcel that they were trying to approve. Again, I understand it's going to have to grow, but I think if we do it responsibly and build the roads, build the infrastructure, I think we'll have a safer community. And so I would respectfully also decline and ask that you not approve this and move this forward. Do not move this forward.
Sure. Thanks for
you.
coming out.
Thank you.
Eric Kaufman.
Good afternoon. I'm Eric Kaufman. I live in the Portrait Hill neighborhood at 2328 Harvestwood Lane. I've definitely seen both sides of this story, and I definitely appreciate the people that have pointing to the roads and the school systems that need to be upgraded to allow for this improvement. But I also do acknowledge that the growth does need to happen. I wouldn't live in the area if it wasn't for this committee and other people vetoing the people in the areas around it to allow for Portrait Hill. At the same time, I also know that Newberry County is only, 2 miles away, maybe, and they're promoting a lot of residential growth. And I drive to Winsboro every day on the back roads, and there's a lot of opportunity for big neighborhoods like Portrait Hill. So my point is anyway, is that I think that if Richland County doesn't build up the roads to support it, I'm afraid that Newberry County will do it, and we'll be stuck in Richland County roads to deal with anyway on Broad River. In that area, more people are going towards Columbia for work than going up towards Newberry and Greenville. So I think that's just kind of an opportunity to point out there, and I think that the county has to do the planning for the growth eventually, sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the information.
This person is Cheryl. I cannot read the last name. It's with a V.
Michelle.
1220.
Thank you.
And Bridget Carver.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
I'm not a public speaker either, but I live.
Start with your name and your address, and then we'll go.
Bridget Craver at 1024 Bookie Richardson. That is the road that wraps around this neighborhood. It's a dirt road in sections and is privately owned, most of it. It's not a county road or anything. It's maintained by the county. So my question is if we put a neighborhood on it, what is going to happen to the dirt road? It's basically a 1 lane. People have to pull over to the side to get by. We have a farm with animals and things. I just want to, let that be known. If you look at Westcott Ridge, it backs up to our dirt road, and those houses are very close to it. And we've already had a car flip on the road there are things, it's just not designed for that kind of traffic. So I think you really need to think about, I know all the other roads are backed up, but that is definitely one that is backing up too. That could be an issue. People use it to cut through to get to the school, and it's just not designed for traffic. So just something else to consider.
Thank you, ma'am. If you can't make a left turn on Broad River Road, maybe you'll find another route. Any more names?
Jacqueline Page.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Page. I live at 111 Rolling Creek Circle in Irmo. I live in the Rolling Creek neighborhood, which is shortly before where this parcel is indicated. And the closest street to me that I can turn on is West Shady Grove. It's an immediate entry onto Broad River, which is desirable, but impossible to turn on. So as a result, when you leave my community, I hang a left on West Shady, go up to Julius Richardson and go around no matter which direction I'm going. It's just got too much traffic. I mean, I live right off of exit 97, and it can barely handle what it currently has. I think also the expansion that's gone up further in Chapin has exacerbated the issue. There's a real delta between exit 97 and the next exit. And so a lot of people, if the freeway starts to back up, get off at 97 and take Broad River Road. I just don't believe that, like the others have said, the infrastructure can handle that. It's currently 2-lane. Perhaps if it was 4, it could. I also just don't think it's appropriate zoning for the area. I think the rural zoning that it's currently at is appropriate. And I think the amount of houses is just too much. I'm totally not against progress. I have a limited experience in the area. I've only been here for 2 years. But I do think that perhaps if it was one house per half acre or something of that nature, it would be different than a medium. I think it's zoned up for a medium density. I just think that that's inappropriate for that area. And I don't believe the roads or the schools can handle that. So I would vote for disapproval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person is Patricia. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but 106 Cedar View Drive.
One down.
Hey, I'm Patricia Stigura. I live at 106. That's also in the Rolling Creek subdivision. And I just wanted to mention, once the interchange is done, when they get off of 26, they're going to be coming up West Shady Grove, dumping straight to Broad River. So that is going to be even more part of the exit. And then you're right at Broad River. And what are we going to do? Maybe put a light, but still, it's always backed up. Somebody mentioned that the gridlock at the rush hour. Well, I'm a teacher. It starts at 6 a.m. and it is gridlock until 8 p.m. at least. It's very congested. And with all of those schools, like somebody else mentioned, high schools, student drivers, fender benders, 2-lane road, it's unbearable as it is now. So I would ask that you would disapprove this. Thank you.
Next person is Allison. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but 1824 Freshly Mill Road.
Allison Maitland, 1824 Freshly Mill Road. I'm speaking for myself today, but I would also like to note that in speaking with my neighbors, the overwhelming sentiment is that we don't want overdevelopment in this area. I'm against the zoning change, and as others had mentioned, against the addition of vehicle traffic on the infrastructure that wasn't built to support it. There are no lights on Broad River and on Mount Vernon Church Road. There are no outside turn lanes at that intersection either. Also note that a recent bridge replacement did not expand the north-south lanes to 2 lanes. So that would add to traffic being backed up even more. More so than a logistical perspective, other people have mentioned that the quality and safety for the pursuit of happiness of the neighbors and for the folks that enjoy that area for cycling and other hobbies would severely be degraded by this zoning change. I would vote for the commission to disapprove this zoning change. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
The next person, Chris, I'm not sure, but 178 Or was it Colby? Okay.
Ms. Colby.
Hi, Chris Colby, 178 Alma Feeney Lane, Chapin. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate your efforts being on this commission. I have an interesting perspective. I'm an architect, so most of my livelihood is based on development and building. I've built subdivisions, I've built single-family homes, I've built mainly schools throughout my career. So I'm not anti-development. However, I'm not in support of this project. I believe the 110 units is an increase in density, that it lies outside of the character of the neighborhood. This project could be built by right if it, stuck to the original zoning, which would be 70 units. I also think that this commission has to consider protecting cultural resources. This area and this property in particular is much of a view shed. And I think when you're looking at developing a property of this magnitude, you have to consider protecting cultural resources as stated in the overall comprehensive plan to protect the area as well as the growth of the area, which obviously is desirable because this is a great area. That's why we all live here. I won't continue to beat on all of the other things that have been mentioned, including traffic and the other infrastructure needs, which we all know do need an upgrade. But I think it is important to note that there are 3 schools directly across the street from this property, 2 of which are at a high school level. So consideration for turning lanes, bus traffic, student traffic is not a typical traffic pattern. Most of my work, as I mentioned before, is designing schools, and those types of traffic patterns and density of traffic is completely different than what most of us are used to. The Kate Center on a regular basis experiences, while school is in session, usually on a weekly basis, accidents at the ingress and egress of that property, which is directly across from the proposed development here. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
And the last person who signed up to speak is Eddie Weatherby.
Hey, I'm Eddie Weathersby. I live at 1016 Bookie Richardson Road, right next to Bridget Craver that already spoke. And as she pointed out, Bookie Richardson is a privately owned road. And if you'll notice, one end of the property goes through Westcott Ridge's property. And when they built Westcott Ridge, they promised us they were not going to put an entrance onto Bookie Richardson Road, and they did it anyway. And and if you'll notice, the other end of the property goes through the proposed property we're talking about. And I know they're going to put another entrance there. And if they don't, since they built Westcott Ridge and the high school, traffic has gone from, we used to have about 4 cars a day on my road when I moved there in 1990 to, we have probably 10 or 15 an hour during rush hour, morning and afternoon. And, I think we're naive to think this is going to be a cotton field the rest of our lives, like we'd all like to see it. When I bought my property, I knew Westcott Ridge would be a neighborhood one day. And this is going to be a neighborhood or something worse if we don't. And it's going to either be a gas station or an apartment complex or a neighborhood. In my opinion, the neighborhood's the best thing. But my concern is what they're going to do about our road. It's private. There's potholes in it constantly, people coming up and down the road speeding, and it's a little narrow road. And I'd like to talk to the developer and the county about how we can limit traffic on the road or do something to restrict it. But that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
That was the last person on the list.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I believe we have one other person that came in.
I was just going to announce that if anyone came in late and wanted to speak, just ma'am, come on down, state your name and address. And Ms. Frierson, can you add it to the list? Okay.
Hey y'all, my name is Jamie Timmerman and I live at 442 Hollow Cove Road, which is in Westcott Ridge that he just referred to. It is the first neighborhood off of the Peak exit, off of Broad River Road on the right, so across from the Rolling Creek neighborhood. It has 580 homes. And I will say, as a person who has to turn out onto Broad River Road to the right to go towards town. Even there's like a death curve that it really needs a light because there's accidents there all the time. The speed limit is 45 miles an hour. People fly up and down that road when you can, because otherwise it's typically backed up. But I'm just here to I just reiterate what everybody else stated, that Broad River Road is 2 lanes, and until it gets widened or until we can do something with the roadway, there's no way that it can support 70 up to 110 more, cars times 2 times whatever it is that will be making that track. So, thank you.
Excuse me, would you repeat your last name and the address just for the record?
Yes, last name is Timmerman, T like Tom, IMMERMAN, and my address is 442 Hollow Cove Road,
What city?
Richland,
city?
Chapin.
Thank
Thanks again, everyone who's come out to speak today. Anyone else miss the sign up sheet? Okay, come on down. Everyone else, state your name and address, please.
Hey, how are y'all? My name is Scarlett Lutz, Lutz, and I live at 228 Goodlet Lane, Chapin. My road is actually right there at the bottom of that screen, and I just want to second what everyone else has already said. The infrastructure can't handle something of this magnitude. We know that change is coming, whether we like it or not. However, the homework on this has not been very good. I also want to note in the paperwork that was given, it says that there's sidewalks. There are no sidewalks. We have bicyclists, there's people walking. I like to run, and the traffic at this point with all of the road construction on the interstate, it has only gotten even worse. If there's an accident or something, everyone gets off at the peak exit, Broad River Road, and it's a nightmare pretty much all day long, not just rush hour. So I would like for y'all to disapprove this. Thank you.
Excuse me, Ms. Lutz, would you give the address again? You said 228 what?
Goodlet, Goodlett Lane. It's right there on Mount Vernon Church Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last call for comments. Okay, I see a hand back there. All right, let's state your name and slowly your address.
Connie Smith, KONNI, 1721 Washlever Road, Little Mountain. I work in that area, and my vocabulary for traffic has gotten bigger because the traffic has gotten bigger. And when I get off of work, I can't even get home within an hour and a half, and I work in that area. The other thing that I understand is the fire department is further away than what is indicated. And like everybody else has spoken about the sidewalks. You have to stop for the bicycles so they can get by. If another development like Portrait Hill or anything else like that comes in out there, South Carolina will be a gridlock state. It's going to be worse than awful. But that's my sentiments, and I appreciate your time. Thank you all.
Thank you. We
Ms.
appreciate
Scotty,
yours.
what's that last name again, please?
Smith.
That's what I thought you said. I wanna
Yes,
make
ma'am.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Back row. Come on down.
Thank y'all for letting me speak. I just wanted to say I'm Cynthia Shepherd. I live at 200 Back Acres Road in Chapin. And I have a slightly different perspective on this. It is the traffic, obviously, because the traffic just doesn't flow on Broad River Road. We've had 2 major projects, the Mount Vernon Church Bridge replacement, plus the roads being sort of reconfigured, and then the old Hilton Bridge project that has taken place over the last year and a half or so. And so for myself and Mr. Ritchie, who spoke before me, there were environmental impacts too, because when they built the school, Mr. Mike's pond filled up with mud. And
it's happened again and again and again. He didn't speak about that today, but I'm going to speak about that for him because it does affect everything around us. It isn't just the traffic. We have people that have horses. My neighbors, we live on a dirt road. It is a single lane dirt road. When the old Hilton Bridge project was going on, we had semi trucks going up our road, speeding people, people throwing out their trash. I've lived there for 13 years. My husband served this country for 26. We spent 2 years finding a place to live. I love Chapin and I love my community. So this is very passionate for me. I hope all of you will take a drive out there and take a look because it's not the same place anymore. You know, people move out there because we want to raise our children in a place that is quiet, to have your people know people so that you get to have your children grow up with people. Yeah, I know everybody wants that. And we know that growth is coming and we understand that. But there is something called graceful growth. And that's what we're asking for, to consider. Drive out there and take a look at it and ask yourself this question. Why would you add 110 homes when the current zoning will suit any builder that wants to build 60 to 70 homes on that property, which will still be quite a lot. And right now, across the street from that, you have a horse property that has gone into play. All right, so I know I'm running out of time. I want to thank y'all for your time. I know that you're volunteering and I appreciate all of you, but I hope that you'll come out and take a drive out there at when school is ending or school is starting, because I think you'll see the impact. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, I think we've covered the room. I would like to open the floor up to the commissioners now for discussion or any questions for staff.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Sirks.
question for staff. Can we zoom the map out a little bit?
Staff, could we take a look at the environmental layers? This is helpful. I'm a lover of maps. It's what I do for my day job. So definitely, thank you, staff. Comments, commissioners, questions?
Chair,
Yes.
comment.
Commissioner Durant.
I'm struck by the apparent condition of the roads surrounding this property. And I haven't been out there myself. I fully admit that, but everybody is commented on that, and doesn't appear to be any, or at least no discussion today about whether there's any plan to improve it. And I'm also struck by the fact that this parcel is currently zone rural, RU, and everything to its north, east, west, and south is the same thing. So it's pretty consistent. So going forward with this change would seem to make this property an aberration in that area. And it just seems like it would just stick out from what it already is. And as it sits now, it's consistent with everything around it. Just a comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Durant. I have a question for staff. We heard along the way that with the remaining rural, that it could have 60 to 70 homes. Mr. Price, is that math correct? Unless Mr. Dennis, Commissioner Dennis, I see a head nodding.
My math came up to 67.02 homes based off 4,000 or 43,560 square feet per acre. And with that many acres, you get 2 million versus then by the time you do all the math. Yeah, that's about it.
This is my math guy. Thank you, Commissioner Dennis. But Mr. Price, yes?
under rural zoning designation allows 66.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Cirques,
couple questions for staff.
Just for
Yes.
67.
67. Thank you. Back to Commissioner Cirques.
First question, it was something that was brought up at one point. It was three non-contiguous portions of the lot that was, it's supposed to be zoned that are substantially smaller than the other contiguous lots. Does that affect the number of potential dwelling units? And if so, how?
Just a moment, please. Referring to the smaller piece.
Yeah, the three smaller pieces, one looks almost directly to the south and two very smaller pieces to the southwest.
So typically when something like this comes in, from a historical standpoint, looks like this may have all been one parcel at one time. However, with, the creation of roads that go between there, those roads were created, or at least some type of, ingress egress between the parcels, but the parcels were never actually separated. So technically they are considered one parcel. And it will all count towards the development of the site.
All right, thank you. Got one more, Chairman, if that's all right.
Continue, please.
Another question for staff with the proposed rezoning being RSE, how does this meet the standards of the comprehensive plan when the rest of the area is almost entirely rural except for one neighborhood to the northwest and another to the southeast? Is it because that RSE is supposed to act as like a buffer zone or a transition area between lower density and medium density?
I'm gonna make sure, so I may answer your question. Well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna answer the question the best I think I heard. If I'm
Okay.
correct, please tell me. So again, this area is designated as neighborhood low density. And within the comprehensive plan for neighborhood low density, it gives you a number of guidelines and objectives for this particular designation. So if you note on page 34, and Mr. DeLay just brought up a little bit more information. We identify land use, we just identify the desired development pattern, recommended land uses and so on. But one of the things that most of the the comprehensive plan designations also include, Tom, if you will go all the way down, it also includes existing zoning districts of similar character. And so we look at that when we're, I guess, again, I'm a little skittish when I say staff's recommendation, but what staff has found is that the zoning designations as identified within the comprehensive plan for neighborhood low density identifies either the current zoning, which is rural, the proposed zoning, which is RSE, and also another zoning designation, which is RR, as all appropriate zoning designations to meet the objectives of this particular designation. And again, if you want to go further out on this, looking at, if you look at the comprehensive plan, an area like, let's say, Portrait Hill is not in compliance with the comprehensive plan. However, and I think you can make the argument that the parcels east of this subject site going all the way down, toward Otama, I think if you even go down that far, and Shady Grove Road, are also, none of those designations are in compliance. You zoom out a little bit more, Tommy. So under our current comprehensive plan with 2015, I think most of these developments took place prior to 2015, but none of these developments that are currently out there are in compliance with the comprehensive plans recommendations for that area. This particular crest would be, which is kind of ironic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
Guys, can you go back to the supplemental page that was on beforehand and scroll down back where the
Is this Commissioner Johnson question? Yes. Good.
a little bit further, please? Thank you. Item number 10 just jumped out at me is in terms of wetlands, floodplains, because several respondents raised that issue. Had the topography up, that also being a concern out there.
You, Johnson. Was it Commissioner Durant? Did you have something?
Oh, yes, I had a question.
Yes.
A question for staff.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Price, in the staff's conclusion, it says the proposed rezoning meets the objectives and desired development pattern of the comprehensive plan for the neighborhood low density future land use designation. I was just curious, are there any other parcels in this area where the proposed rezoning is to take place that also meet the desired development pattern of the comprehensive plan? And I guess I'm not understanding what that desired pattern is.
Okay, so again, a lot of words on those pages that Mr. DeLage has when we talk about the land use design, desired development pattern and such. But Tom, if you would go back to the actual aerial and put on the zoning layer. So as you can see that all of the green that you see, all of those are zone rural. And so those actually are in compliance with the comprehensive plan as we initially will look at those. So all of those are. It's the ones that are not, again, based on our current comprehensive plan, which you see in, okay, I'm bad with my colors, but hot pink, whatever, and the purple. And also the yellowish color of, I think that's Portrait Hill, a little further up. All of those fall within the neighborhood low density designation. But none of them have a zoning designation that is recommended for neighborhood low density.
I guess I'm just not seeing any difference between the parcel at issue in this map amendment request and the surrounding properties. They all are rural, they all look the same. But for whatever reason, this one has been singled out and it's to be changed.
Well, right, because with the comprehensive plan, I mean, I think within any of these, and I'm speaking specifically for residential now, with any of our neighborhood designations of the comprehensive plan, whether it be medium density or low density, there are a variety of zoning designations that will actually fit within that designation. So an example, if this was neighborhood medium density, everything from RS, LD, MD, HD would fit within the designation. Within the low density, which is what this particular request is located within, it actually allows for, or I guess you could say suggests that the rural RSE, which is the request, and RR are zoning designations that would actually help meet the requirements and guidelines for this designation.
Chairman.
Yes. Aaron Johnson.
I think stating Commissioner Durant's concern or question a little bit differently. My core issue with this and looking at it is, while you do recognize that RSE is one of the similar characteristics, but when I look at this map and I look at everything around that being RU, and how many times that I've made on the fact that something immediately in the area matches what's being asked, and that's not the case here. And so, and part of the rationale saying it's low density, well, there is an existing low densities of right that we've said they can put 70 units with the current zoning and achieve low to medium density, that we're increasing it when the surrounding area, there's not a single parcel in the immediate area that is comparable.
Correct. And I think one of the things to look at, and I think I may have had this discussion with some of you previously, but what you're looking at when Mr. DeLage pulls up the map showing the Northwest planning area. You had that, Tom? One of the things that you will notice is that is actually, we call it the FLUME, otherwise the future land use map. So one of the things that's not the question is does the proposed use match? The question really is, does the proposed use fit the future land use that's recommended for this area? Not today, but going forward. So yes, sometimes you are going to have some requests that don't fit what's currently out there. But the question is, does that request, as recommended by the comprehensive plan, fit how it should look in the future?
To your point, Mr. Price, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
As a follow-up question. At some point tonight, we're going to discuss the text amendments in the map. Do any of our recommendations in that chart impact this parcel if this action was not taken?
As far as the text amendment, no, sir.
A chart of recommended, basically.
You talking about the ledger?
Well, the new zoning code, if approved based upon our recommended chart, would that have an impact on what this would be zoned? Since we're talking about the future land use.
Based on the recommendations that were sent forward by the planning commission, this could. Yes, sir. It really is just a matter of when, say county council does decide to enact the map. So right now, we're looking at a couple of large tracts that may fall in, I believe, either probably under the AG zoning designation, if nothing happens with this parcel. If this is rezoned to RSE, even with going forward, it may still fall under AG, but it's just a matter of when the development comes in, the parcels are subdivided, because during that time, the reduction of the lot sizes would make it fall under a different zoning designation, maybe even, well, I guess already maybe R1, I believe would be the more appropriate zoning designation.
I may not have phrased my question very well, but I think some of the commissioners understand where I'm going is that if we don't take action on this and the recommendations that have been approved move forward and are approved by county council, where would this parcel land under the new code?
AG. It'll fall under the AG zoning designation.
Which would provide for how many units?
Okay.
Commissioner Dennis, do you have that?
Yeah.
Oh, because I don't have those formulas in front of me for that one because I only got the other code. I don't have the new code in front of me.
Yeah, I'm afraid to say without looking it up. So.
Said AG, right?
As the team is looking, give you guys an update. The 2021 LDC has been on the shelf and is now in the hands of county council. I had the opportunity to speak to them last month. But we are still working off of our 2005 code until otherwise.
And we're looking for the AG or the R1, I'm sorry. I believe there will be the 3 units per acre.
I think it's going to be right at 23 units, if I'm doing math right.
0.33.
Yeah, something like that. Math in my head, so.
If I'm reading this correctly, on the chart, rural lots amend AG zone standards, gross average lot size 680 square feet, 3 acres, minimum lot size 98,000 square feet.
1,000 square feet, you divide that by that 2. Yeah, so you're looking at around 22 units going
So,
forward,
going
if we
forward.
don't do anything.
So if we take no action, the future development code would produce a lower number of units than what's being requested and what's of right now.
Correct. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
Yeah, you know, I look at this case and I have to look at the 2005 code. Unfortunately, I really can't use the new code coming forward because it's not in front of me as far as adopted with the maps and ready to go. So I literally have to use the 2005 code. So when I look at it, as much as the surrounding area is rural, but when I go to the comprehensive plan does call for a medium or calls for a low density neighborhood on the north side of 26, and then directly on the south side of 26, it actually goes to neighborhood medium density for the future land use. While I hear everybody out there, and I side with them in my heart, I have to go by what's in front of me on the code. And when I see this, you know, one of the good things that was mentioned to us at the front was that no matter how we vote, it's going to be deferred so that there can be community meetings forward and talking with developers and talking with the councilmen out there. But as where I sit as a quasi judicial, basically sitting like a judge up here, I have to go by the rule of law. And sometimes the rule of law to me doesn't make sense in my heart, but I got to follow it. Is to me, it looks, I'm starting to agree with the staff's recommendation on this, but I don't agree in my heart with it, if that makes any sense.
Can I just clarification point?
Commissioner
My
Johnson.
reference to the future code was not to try to make a decision based on what's going to, it's simply that staff said that part of the rationale was based on the future use. but the future use is a less dense use. So if I'm going to look at the future use, it's a higher lot size area than what's entitled now. So yes, the current code makes provision for that, but the reason that staff said that they were voting that they recommended yes, was based upon the future use. And the chart that this board has brought forth to set forth to county council recommends a lower density.
Chair. Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
I understand that, but I think if we look at it, the comprehensive plan would also be R1 residential. So that, I mean, you could go up to R1, which would be higher than the AG because I mean, they could break those parcels apart. So, I mean, ultimately, I think the numbers are going to be the same on here versus the future.
But also point out that we are also charged with updating our comprehensive plan, which is something that hopefully will have the same body of planning commission members for next year. But that's something that we'll be working on toward the end of this year, hopefully as a start, but definitely through next year and going into early 25 to update our comprehensive plan. And so we will be looking at these type of areas again, also looking at the new land development code also.
Thank you, Mr. Price. At this point, I'll open the floor for any official emotions on this.
Mr. I'll say one
Yes.
thing because I know
Go ahead.
sometimes after your vote, everybody starts to scatter. But as I stated earlier, all of the cases will be deferred from the June 27th meeting to the July 25th meeting. But for this particular, and that's to allow the council members for each of their respective districts to have town halls on certain cases. For this particular case, Councilman Branham, who represents this particular area, District 1, will have a meeting on June the 21st at 6 p.m. at the Valentine Civic Association to hear from the
21st,
community.
6 p.m.
21st at 6 p.m.
June 21st.
June 21st at 6 p.m. at the Valentine Civic Association. I'm sorry, is it Valentine Civic Association? Was that correct? Yes.
Yes.
At the Valentine Civic Association.
A question, but I don't know
Yes,
what
Commissioner
it
Person.
should be directed to staff or to the chair. My concern is that in that Mr. Price just mentioned, there's going to be a meeting on the 21st. And we also know that we're working right now with the plan from 2005, and it's got to be, changed, amended, adopted, or whatever. It seems to me that this matter ought to be deferred until after we have had the town meetings. I mean, I may be wrong, because it just doesn't make logical sense to me that we may take an action today, which will be perhaps thrown out when county council officially does what it's supposed to do. Am I making sense?
No, I think what you have before you today is, of course, is the request from the applicant, and your charge as the planning commission is to hear the case, hear from citizens, and to make a recommendation going forward. The town hall is for that council member to hear from the constituents for council's decision, mostly led by that council member that represents that district. So the appropriate thing is for you as a planning commission to go ahead and take your normal course of action of making a recommendation today. And then the councilman will actually take that into consideration, I'm sure, when they have the official zoning public hearing meeting. But in between, he does want to have another avenue to hear from his constituents.
One more question. If we take an action today, especially since we know there's still the text part has to be approved and all of that, what effect does whatever we do today have on the applicant when we're working with, I know legally, we're looking at something that was done in 2005. how does that impact the applicant and really the residents for us to make a decision today when things are gonna change probably real soon?
Well, right now, we don't know. We don't know what that change may be. We don't know when that change may occur. So we are all operating, including council, under the 2005 Land Development Code.
If it is changed, does it mean that the applicant has to come back and reapply? You know, I just don't know how it works.
If any applicant gets a rezoning request and they submit their plans prior to any changes by Richland County, then those plans are considered in the pipeline and they're allowed to proceed as is, regardless of any future changes to the zoning designation.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Price. We are stuck in this in-between right now where we still are using the 2005 code. And community members, I would say, reach out to your county councilman to look at the Richland County's planning website. We've created this document, a ledger, that is now in the hands of the Development Services Committee. So to look at the new code, they need to move forward with that. Here we are right now, looking at this property with the 2005 code. The chair looks for any motions.
Mr. Chair, before you ask for motions, just.
Yes, sir.
I need confirmation on something.
Commissioner
Under the
Durant.
Current 2005 Land Development Code, did I understand that this area would be zone AG?
Looking at this, there are 3 parcels that you have before you. So I want to make sure, I think you're bringing that up for clarification. Based on what was recommended by the planning commission, anything between 3 and I think 30 acres, is it 30, 35?
35.
35 acres would fall under so for correction, it would fall under HM zoning designation, not AG, it would be HM. So all 3 of these parcels would become HM if nothing else is done. And county council adopts the recommended map that was sent forward by the planning commission.
Mr. Price, acreage is 50 acres
Total.
So the large one, is that?
The large one is 32 acres. So
Okay.
again, it falls under between that 3 and 35.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, any other questions before I ask for a motion? Okay. So you're all night if you'd like. Go ahead, Commissioner Johnson. No? Okay. All right. The chair is looking for a motion then.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
I have a motion. I would like to send case number 23-017 MA to county council for approval.
Commissioners, do I have a second? Okay. All right, Mr. Price, we have a motion for approval and a second. So can you please conduct a vote?
So the motion is for approval of case 23-017 MA. Those in favor of the motion? Grady,
Aye.
Searts,
Aye.
Durant,
Hey,
Metz.
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Oh,
Ryerson,
No,
Yankee.
No. Motion fails. So in this case, do we look for another motion?
Uh,
Yeah, so
Chair.
Over,
Never mind.
well,
Go.
let's go.
Mr. Bryce.
What we have done previously is we've gone on and taken another vote. And any tie will go forward to the county council as a no recommendation.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
If I'm not mistaken, you can call for a reconsideration of that vote. And if it ties again, then it goes as in a disapproval.
Are we allowed any discussion? Mr. Bryce, does this take us back to discussion and then vote? No.
I don't have our rules and procedures in front of us for tie votes. If we could look that up.
We're pulling that now.
I appreciate your insight, Commissioner Dennis, with the rule book and the math. And I appreciate everyone's patience tonight.
Sure.
Yes,
I have a copy of our rules.
Okay.
Commissioner Durant, thank you.
Section 4 rules, section 5 voting, part D says a tie vote for motions regarding recommendations to the county council is a no recommendation vote. A tie vote for motions regarding action wherein the commission has final authority is a failed vote. In the latter circumstance, the matter will be rescheduled for the next available commission meeting.
I heard that correctly. That's a no.
It is, so as is stated by Mr. Durant, so in this particular case, this is not, you do not have the final determination on this matter. If this was a administrative appeal per se for the planning commission, then that would be a failed vote. But for this particular one, because it's a tie, it will go forward as a no recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Price. So in summary, everyone, this is going to move on to county council as denied. Sounds like Chairman Branham is going to have a public meeting some point next month. So this would then be in front of the zoning committee in July. Thank you for everyone coming out. Everyone is free to
Chair.
stick around or take off. Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. For clarity, for clarification.
Hang on a second. Thanks.
Just
Hold on one second.
Just want to make sure, for clarification, a tie vote for motions regarding recommendations to the county council is a no recommendation vote. So it's not going forward as a recommendation for denial or approval.
Okay,
You have no recommendation based on your tie.
my apologies. So it's a no vote.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
Just everybody, before you leave out, Councilman Brownham does have that meeting on June 21st, correctly, town hall on this. Definitely, please ask your questions at that and let it be known where you stand. Thank you.
And anyone who may not, and I'm sure y'all will all make the 6 o'clock meeting. Anybody who can't get there or you want to get comments in advance, if you will still send those to the planning commission's email address, we will make sure we get those to Councilman Branham prior to his meeting on the 21st.
Where will that meeting be held?
At the Ballantyne Civic Association.
I'm going to go ahead and pause the meeting for a couple of minutes.
Thank y'all so much.
Take your time.
Thank you, public, for coming out. You need to go? Right. Mr. Price.
Mr. Price, got a question for you.
All right, we're going to continue our meeting. If the public can continue their separate discussions outside of the council chambers, you're welcome to go on that side of the door there. How you doing? We're going to continue. We have another case. Right.
Here.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
I'm going to step outside. I just want the public to know, I got to step outside because I'm supposed to be in another commission meeting. So I'm going to go give them a quick phone call and let them know that I'm going to be late, and then I'll come right back.
Okay, Mr. Price, we're going to move on to item number 5B. Number six, case number 23-018.
Okay, so again, item 23-018 MA. The applicant is Mark Meadows. The location is at 239 Killian Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone 2.37 acres from rural, which is RU, to general commercial, which is GC. So this particular parcel falls within the Economic Development Center Corridor Future Land Use Designation. And as such, staff's recommendation that that particular designation does support their general commercial request. So the staff's recommendation was for general commercial, for approval. However, please take note that third paragraph under the conclusion states, however, while the two parcels directly south of the subject site are zoned general commercial in the case 19-020 MA, the subject site for the proposed map amendment can be viewed as an encroachment, which would allow for incompatible land uses with the existing adjacent residential uses nearby. In addition, the subject parcel does not have frontage or direct access to a major road, which will be Killian Road in this particular case. But that's not, again, that's not to say that if this was approved, it couldn't be combined or developed in association with the other parcels that are zoned general commercial.
Mr. Price, just for clarity then, does the owner own the parcel that touches? Is it the same owner?
It doesn't, they're coming up under different names.
Okay.
Let the applicant state in the relationship he may have with those parcels.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Price. Other information?
No, sir.
No, okay. Ms. Frierson, can you please let us know who signed up to speak?
First person is the applicant, Mr. Mark Meadows.
On down. Please remember to state your name and address.
My name is Mark Meadows. I live at 239 Killian Road. I own the property located at 239 Killian Road. I've lived in this area approximately 50 years. I purchased this property about 15 years ago. At that time, it was on a 16-acre lake. The lake is no longer there anymore. The dam burst about 7 years ago. The owner of the property are not going to rebuild the lake. So the lake is now grown up. There's no view from any of the other houses on the lake to my property, except for one piece of rental property that's adjacent to mine. Mr. Price said the two pieces of property beside me are already on general commercial. And if you look, I have access off of Killian Road. My main driveway is on the property. I have a prescriptive easement to Killian Road. That is my main access to that piece of property. The road that it shows going behind the piece of property was cut off approximately 60 years ago. It's fenced off. There's no vehicle access from Lucas Road coming into the backside of my property. That's all fenced off, and I own the old road bed at this time. Last year's land development code rewrite, it was recommended that it be, these two pieces of property be rezoned, general commercial. So that's about it. I would just appreciate if you would vote. It's only general commercial. The lake is gone. I've lost property value, and if they develop commercially behind me, as far as a residential piece of property, I'll lose value again. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for coming out.
Next person is Sean McLaughlin.
Have Sean still here?
I mean, 3016. Patrick at 140 Governor Road.
I defer to one of my neighbors.
David or, okay, David Strother.
Come on down, sir.
David Strother, 226 Davis Smith Road. I'm actually down Killian Loop, back behind this area. So there really is no access to this property from Killian Road. That's the big objective. We have to access his property. If he sells his property, it'll be accessed off of Lib Lucas, which passes 5 properties that have homes on them. 2 of those properties are already bought, being remodeled, being either sold or rented. People live in these places. So encroachment's huge for this area. That's just on Lib Lucas. Then if you go to Governor's Pond side, there's, I think, 14 homes in that area that have people either live in or rent in those homes. So encroachment's a big deal for this piece of property. We've had a lot of folks want to develop this area for some odd reason. I don't know why, because less than a mile on the road behind the Kroger off of Killian Road, there sits 100 acres undeveloped. There's nothing there. But they want to dump general commercial in this area, water diversion, road maintenance and issues, pollution, et cetera, not including the encroachment. Let me see here. Flooding, that's another big one here. Upstream development, we have been fighting flooding in that area, hence why that dam busted. It still floods Governor Pond Road, which lines up right with the property we're talking about. So what we're saying here is, look, we understand Killian Road be developed. We're not arguing Killian Road. This is not Killian Road. It's a driveway off of Killian Road. It pushes it back around everybody else's houses. So encroachment for us is a huge deal. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
The next person looks like, I'm not sure if it's Larry, but 216 Davis Smith Road.
My name is Larry Lohman at 216 Davis Smith Road. I live just down the street from Mark and just about see his house from my house. And I'm gonna hit it from a little bit different angle. My family bought this land back in the 60s. I remember when 77 was built, Highway 77, and when Clemson Road was a dirt road. So I've been there a long time. But when I got out of the service, my dad had purchased some land in here and I built me a house, raised my kids there. Now I got grandyoungers next door to me. And so I'm heading a little bit from the rural side. Every time something happens, it goes a little bit less rural. And that's the purpose that I built out here where I did, and to live with my family and live a quiet life after I got out of service. I understand economic growth, but it seems like every time we turn around, there's an encroachment, a little bit more here, a little bit more there, a little bit more there. Last year, we had someone come in and do something similar to this, and you guys turned it down, but I don't know, it was a technicality or whatever, but it got turned down. But one of the main problems from an environmental aspect is the water issue that David brought up just a few minutes ago. That's why the dam is gone. That's why the roads flood. Governor's Pond Road, I've seen it so you can't get across it. I've seen Killian Loop so you can't get across it. When the dam burst out, it knocked out Killian Road, knocked it completely out, went on down to Lake Elizabeth, and then Lake Elizabeth's dam is gone, which the dam happened to be Highway 21, Wilson Boulevard, and they couldn't rebuild it either. And that's all because of these little places where it's a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. I don't know what what this land might intend on being one day, but we just can't have any more water coming in our little hole that we're in down there. It's just, you know, I understand economic development. I understand we got to have Walmart and the hotels and the car dealerships and Lowe's and all of them are right there and dumping all that water right in our little area down there. My next door neighbor, bless his soul, he died a couple of months ago. Ambulance came to his house 3 times before he died. And if this road had water over top of it, he wouldn't have made it. You wouldn't be able to get a fire truck down there. I've take people back and forth in my backhoe going across the water so they could get back and forth going to wherever they had to go. So that's the aspect that I really hate it about it is an environmental thing.
Yeah,
And
thank you,
plus,
sir.
I'm losing my rural.
Final
area.
thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Last person, Patrick, I'm not sure if it's money, but 140 Governor Road.
My name is Robert Patrick Mooney. I live at 140 Governor Pond Road, which is on the map a little further back. I'm like the last lot on Governor Pond at the very end on the right. And just want to reiterate what the rest of my neighbors are saying. You know, this being commercial back there doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I know there's commercial properties towards the front, and if they put something there, that's fine. You know, that's not really, you know, the water issue is a huge issue. I mean, we could not get across through our road when the dam burst. I've never seen that much water in my life. I have videos on my phone of it coming across the road and being as high as this man's Hoover building. That the Everly's right there on that corner, right on the other side of the corner. Their house was not their house, but their Hoover building was completely covered in water. It was just unbelievable. Looked like something out of The Walking Dead. But anyway, just I want to just vote my vote here saying that I'd like that not to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, did we have anyone else who didn't come on down? State your name and address slowly for us. We'll add you to the list.
I am Gina Dow, and I have property at 1107 Killian Loop, but I also own 108 Lib Lucas as well. And as the other residents have said, we are in a very rural, very small community, dirt roads that are not being maintained properly already. Lib Lucas is one of them. Secondary power sources, I can't even get them to trim the trees because it's all ran secondary power. You know, and I have now bought a secondary piece of property there to hopefully one day put one of my kids. So it's a big family environment there. We were here just about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, and we spoke very strongly. At that time, Mr. Meadows was on the same side as us against commercial development that was trying to come at the top of Killian Loop and down Lib Lucas Road and all of that. We fought that together. And now at this point, we've ended up on opposite ends of the spectrum. But you know, like I said, we were all in agreement. We came here together against a commercial developer. And that was denied for the same reason of encroachment. Also, too, keeping in mind that when you're leaving the Killian Road Walmart and hitting Killian Loop to your right, that road at Killian Loop becomes a 1-lane road, very dangerous 1-lane road that I take a right turn on all the time. So single lane road down Killian Road, nothing but residences all the way down towards Highway 21.
Staff, can you zoom the map out?
Excuse me, would
Thank
you
you.
spell your last name for us again?
D is in David, O-W,
And first name?
Gina, G-E-N-A.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, was there anyone else out there that missed a sign up sheet and wanted to speak? Okay. Now I'll open this up to the floor for my fellow commissioners for discussion. Commissioner Dennis, as he's thinking. You have thoughts?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
Yeah, I look at this and when we look at our Northeast planning for the future, this is directly inside a priority investment area, and priority investment areas are a headache for me. Because we can either send this to a council member as 100% supporting it, and then they'll go around and say, no, let's put houses there, or we'll send it, say, let's put houses, and they'll go, no, let's do commercial. So going through, because the parcel next directly to the right's GC, the parcel underneath it's GC, and internet's slow here, so I couldn't pull it up. Tommy, that parcel right there on Governor Pond Road, right yeah, so that's still RU. Okay. I mean, investment area, I mean, for me, I seem to agree with the staff's recommendation on this. Because of, I mean, straight up what they said. I mean, it's economic development center corridor, future land use. I mean, it's right there, right off 77. I mean, if you're within basically 3 miles on either side of an interstate, it's hard. It's going to be hard. So, I mean, that's just kind of just letting everybody know my kind of thoughts about it.
Sure.
Yes,
A question for staff.
sure.
Ms. Price, the bottom two parcels beneath the proposed rezoning, were those rezoned from rural to GC at some point in the past?
Yes, sir, they were. I think it's stated within your package. There were two rezoning requests. One was in night, and both of them were in 2019. One was 2020. And the other one was one was 19/020 and the other one was 19/044. So those were rezoned in the last 4 years, I guess.
Second question. Residents, several of them mentioned issues with flooding of that area. That has no impact on the zoning, correct?
No, sir.
Or delays. Can we turn on the environmental layers? Just to look at it. I'm sure this data it may have changed since the floods of 2015. I had my own comment looking at the map on page 47, which is our future land use map. There's been other commission meetings where we've looked at this as like a broad paintbrush. I know we've been told to kind of leave that phrase alone, but it's a future land use. In some of my training, some of these designated areas weren't, it doesn't go by parcels particularly, it's still a broad line. So being familiar with the area west of 77 there does remain a little bit more rural in character than east of 77. Just my thoughts as someone who loves maps, as I mentioned earlier. Thoughts, questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner Cirques.
Question for staff. With the proposed rezoning as general commercial, it says it's characterized primarily by retail, office and service establishments oriented primarily to major traffic arteries. And I don't have it in front of me, but is there a point at which a road that is categorized as a major traffic artery stops becoming at some point is not a major traffic artery? Is that, if that makes sense, does it go down to 2 lanes and then it's not a major traffic artery?
Right. That particular one,
So it could be depending on the functional classification for SCDOT, and we'll go ahead and pull that up now if that'd be beneficial. Sometimes a narrowing of lanes from say 5 or 4 in this case to 2 may not necessarily lower the class, but it may have an impact on the kind of road it was, so how it operates. And it looks like this is being shown as a minor arterial road. Whereas where it is a 4-lane divided on Killian Road, that is a principal arterial. So the functional class does change once you cross over.
That's kind of why I was asking.
Thank you, staff, for pulling that up. That's helpful. Any more comments from my peers? Concerns? Is anybody ready for a motion? The floor is still open for a motion.
Chair,
Commissioner Dennis.
I have a motion. I'd like to make a motion for case number 23-018 MA, go to county council. Hold on. Go to county council for approval.
We have a motion for approval. Do I have a second? Is that from Commissioner Metz? All right. I have a motion for approval and a second. Staff, can you please conduct a vote?
okay. The motion was for the approval of case 23-018 MA. Those in favor, Metz,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Johnson, Durant,
Aye.
Burks,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Ryerson,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye.
And passes.
This commission just made a recommendation for approval. It's going to go to county council's next zoning meeting after June in July.
In July. And
Thank you.
And as previously stated, I don't have a date, but I do know that Councilwoman Barron, who represents this area, will be having a community meeting to discuss this with the residents.
Thank you, staff. Okay, we're going to move on to a new topic, but still in item number 5. 5C, we have a text amendment of the 2005 code in front of us. So staff, please guide us along this path.
We'll try to simplify, but of course, I'm sure y'all will have questions for staff.
And it's on page 53
Yes, basically.
of our packet.
Yes. So, in a nutshell, one of the things we really have, one of the things we've tried to do is avoid having too many text amendments going for the 2005 version, especially as well. I think we're getting closer and closer to the complete full adoption of the 2021 Land Development Code. However, every so often something will come up that we feel is kind of more pressing. Within our industrial zoning designation, so we have in our current code, we have the M1, which is light industrial. We have the LI, which is light industrial, and we have the HI. The only one of those designations that has certain restrictions on square footage is the LI. Again, the M1 has no limitations, neither does the HI. So, from working with our economic development department and also with discussions with those looking at parcels for industrial use, what we end up having is sometimes rezoning requests, they need to go from LI to HI, mostly for square footage, because you can't get a variance just for that. The Board of Zoning Appeals cannot vary from the criteria that's established for a special exception as it relates to the square footage. So they wouldn't be able to vary from that. So they end up asking for rezoning to HI as essentially as a way to get that variance to eliminate the square footage limitations. And so just kind of looking at this and looking at the other zoning designations, we felt it might be appropriate to just remove those square footage limitations within the LI zoning designation. Yet we will still have the special requirements that were found under the special exceptions. Those are other that criteria will still be imposed as a special requirement for any of those uses.
Thank you, Mr. Price. I'm going to open this up for questions to staff. Let's try to unpack this and understand it as a commission. Everybody have a complete understanding, is ready?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. I don't have any questions.
Randomly, Commissioner Metz, do you have any questions?
Right now, no, I do not.
Okay. With that, I'll also open the floor up to a motion then to update this text.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
Yes, I have a motion to support the text amendment change on chapter 26 of the Land Development, Article 5 zoning district, section 26-141, table and permitted uses as presented to us on page 53 through 56 of our packet here.
Commissioner Dennis, that's a motion to approve.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Grady. Staff, can you please conduct a vote?
Yes, those in favor of the motion, for approval of the text amendment as presented on page 53, Durant.
Aye.
Serge,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Metz, Dennis,
Aye.
Johnson, Frierson, Yonke.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, staff. I believe that will also go on to the zoning committee of the county council.
Yes, sir.
Continues with the process. All right, thank you. All right, with that, we have moved on from item number 5 to item number 6, which is the chairman's report, my report. All right. I want to begin by saying thanks again to my fellow commissioners for all their time and effort they invest each month in this commission. Commissioners, please check your emails for a message sent May 16th, 23 from Mr. Price. I believe there's a more recent one now regarding mandatory training for commissioners. This is training we can do online at our own pace. Please reply to Price to set up your accounts on the provided website and just stay in good communication with Mr. Price because he can help guide you along the way.
Yes, sir. Will not interrupt your chairman's report. but
Yes.
I would like to say, I'd like to thank every member of the planning commission. I believe we are 8 of 9 that have completed the requirements in one way or the other.
All right, then I want to say thank you to my fellow commissioners for completing this requirement. All right. And if you're that one who hasn't done it yet, Mr. Price will track you down, right? Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Something for Mr. Price. I did contact customer support or whatever that them people are on the other end. They are going to email me a certificate so that I can actually send you something. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, continuing my report. Thank you, commissioners, for coming out to County Council's Development and Services Committee meeting last month. In our packets for review, just like our minutes, we have our ledger of recommendations we sent to County Council last November. There were a few minor edits that needed to be made due to the staff's technical issues, but as you can see now, they've all been corrected and the ledger now matches verbatim our approved recommendations. Thank you, staff, for your hours spent reviewing our meeting minutes and YouTube recordings. As you can go ahead and look at pages 49 and 51. So 51 with the red line markings are the minor text updates we needed. Commissioner Dennis, do you want to speak on those 3 lines that came out? I believe those were yours that were supposed to come out in the first place, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we was at that last meeting and they wanted us to look at this. There was and I spoke to Councilman Pugh and Councilwoman Barron. And they were talking about, hey, we need to really look at this and make sure it's right. So I told them, I said, well, it's not right. And mainly because there was 3 in there that was passed on to them that we actually voted on at the end to take off because of some other changes that we done prior to those. And then to say a few other words on it, there's a few in here that it might not be verbatim, but the numbers and all that are there. And I will say this, after looking at it a little bit more, I didn't see anything that came up that would be wrong for the intent, based just upon our recommendations going forward. I'm not sure where county council sits with this, what they're going to do. But I imagine whatever they do, they're going to, whatever they vote on, we'll send it back to us to make sure that that intent was there just for us to look at it. I think that's what I got from them.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Dennis. And so staff, as chair, I am very pleased that we can send this corrected ledger to the Council's Development and Services Committee so they can now begin their review. We know this is corrected. We are happy with it. This is what we pushed from November. That's all I have to say about that. So we have another part of my chairman's report. This is the fun part. We would like to begin planning for an off-site orientation and training session this summer. Commissioners, please email Mr. Price some topics or some county departments that you'd like to hear from or learn more about. In my going on 4 years on the commission, I've been blessed to attend 2 of these sessions, which I found were truly valuable for all the attendees there. It is a public meeting, so the public is welcome to come out. Personally, I found the insights gained there directly add to my abilities that are used here on the commission. So to get this going, we're looking for possible Thursdays or Fridays that you would have for this training. And I know summers can be difficult, time to schedule. I've got 5 kids. It's crazy. But please email Mr. Price your availability again for a Thursday or Friday, starting this month in June through August. And hopefully we can find a mutual time that works for the commission. This again is an off-site training. In the past, we've had different speakers come. I found it to be valuable. And some of our newer members were able to attend last year. I remember this is where we met for the first time. So it's great.
Oh,
And this goes right in to our plan director's report. So Mr. Price, I will give you the floor.
as you can see on page 57. That's correct. That has the report of council. There's the report of council on there. I believe that one was from the from the May 23rd zoning public hearing. So you get to see the results of the council meeting. Jumping down to 7B and to continue with what the chair spoke about with the PC orientation and training. We thought that those have been pretty valuable for not only the commission, but also for staff. So we were looking at a couple of dates and again, we're not necessarily, this is not a deadline that you have to have this in or something. This is something that we're providing to the planning commission. So your attendance is what we're really shooting for. Ideally for us right now, we would like to have, we were hoping to have one initially at the end of this month. I know that's short notice, but we're looking at either the 29th or the 30th, which would be a Thursday or a Friday. And we can put that together. We're probably looking at the same place we had the last one over at Clemson research office. If those dates work for you, please let me know as soon as you can. If this work, that's the 29th and or the 30th of June.
Both days.
But either one of those days. And so we're just, ideally that Thursday would be great, but again, we want to try to accommodate your schedules. If we cannot do it in June, don't worry, we can always find another date sometime, hopefully in July or August.
The dates don't work, let you know that now too.
Yes, I was saying, Mr. Price.
If you can tell us now, then that would be wonderful.
The 29th doesn't work.
Yes, okay, let's go down the line. We'll start with Commissioner Durant if he wants to say.
June 29th is not good for me.
Yeah. Thank you.
What times were, any time in particular that we were looking at?
I think the last time we started, was it 10? I think at 10, we had yes, about 10.
Well, as it currently stands, I could do the 29th, but I probably couldn't do anything before early afternoon on the 30th.
Okay.
I'm out of town. However, I'm coming back on the 29th. So if Delta gets me here, at the proposed 7 a.m. arrival time at Charlotte Airport, I could be here. If they do not, I probably wouldn't be here on the 29th. But I am in town from 10 a.m. on the 29th and the 30th.
The 29th actually looks better for me than the 30th. Yeah, I was planning to go out of town on Friday, the 30th.
I apologize, Mr. Price. Neither date works for me. I'm the new president of the South Carolina Education Association, retired, and I'll be in Orlando attending a national conference.
So you pick Orlando for us.
Do what?
You picked Orlando over us. Okay.
They told me I had to go there and have to be there through July the 6th.
I will high five you. I will be leaving when you're getting there.
I will be out of town both days
Okay.
proposed there.
The 29th is fine.
Most likely going into the 4th of July, I'll be Johnson Family Vacation Road Trip.
Yeah, I believe just from what I'm hearing from you, and again, I apologize, a little short notice, and we've been talking about this for a while. We may just go ahead and move this because I think it's just better, the more that we can have for you, have in attendance, I think it works out better. So I don't want to do it. It would be my preference not to do it with just a few, and even with looking at Mr. Dennis's situation where he hopes to be there. So we would like to, I think we'll just pick another date and time. But again, I would still request that you can, especially in the next week or two, if you have particular topics that you have in mind that you would like for us to cover, we'll be more than happy to look into that, try to get the appropriate speakers or information to you. Like I said, I think over the last 2 meetings we've covered a number of topics. And so I think those are mostly done through staff. But, again, we will take any input we can from any of the planning commission members. And also we'll see what, as a staff, we can put together also for you.
Mr. Price, not to get hung up on dates, but I fear if we don't look at this, it'll get hard to get on our schedule. If I threw out the dates of July 20th or 21st, we look at that for the group. If I'm afraid we
Okay.
kick the can to
Yeah.
next month, then it'll be busy.
Okay.
Thursday, July 20th or Friday, the 21st. Would you guys pull up your calendars again? No one's on the spot, but if we know, it's helpful.
Friday, the 21st.
Commissioner Johnson's good for the 21st. We'll start from the right, come down.
First.
Yeah, that works for me too.
And the 21st, particularly in the
What time are we looking at?
I think I can make any time those days work, but I have some things that I have to move around before, say, 10:30 on both days.
Okay, I think we can work over on that.
Ryerson, do you know yet? It's okay
I
if you
do,
don't.
And this time I'll be in Cozumel.
Good for you.
I'm serious. Serious. Y'all are welcome to come with me.
I would love to. Mr. Price, I'm available that day, so I threw it out there. Either day. Dennis? Oh, yet?
I'm in St. Martin.
Uh-oh.
Oh, let me make a note.
Uh,
How are the planning commissioners living?
Sure, go ahead, Miss.
I'll be in Tahiti.
Are you serious?
No.
Okay.
No, as it currently stands, either of those dates work for me. But my preference would be for Friday, if possible.
Either day works for me.
We'll look into that. We just need to make sure that date's available. If not, we'll have to get something out to you.
Thank you.
And that's it for planning director report.
Okay, item number 8, other items for discussion. We do have one. Ms. Frierson made it known to me. She stepped in after we approved the minutes. The very top of the minutes, it shows for May 1st, 2023. It does not have Ms. Frierson's name on the top. So, Mr. Price, how do we do this?
We'll take another vote with that correction. We will get that to our transcriber to get that corrected, and then we will post this on the webpage.
Okay, as chair, then I make a motion to vote to update our May 1st, 2023 minutes to add Commissioner Frierson's name to the members present as shown line 19, where she says here. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Please conduct a vote.
All right, those in favor, Yankee,
Aye.
Frierson, Johnson, Dennis.
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Durant.
Aye.
Sturks,
Aye.
Grady.
Aye.
All right, there's,
Do we have any other items for discussion? Yes,
Yeah.
Commissioner.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
There's a social media expression when they say asking for a friend. As it relates to your report on the required online documentation, what's the cutoff date to?
Mr. Price, do you have an answer?
for orientation.
Orientation, what's our cutoff date for that?
Actually, again, for most of the members, if you would, according to. So let me make sure that's correctly, you're exempt from meeting those requirements if you are an attorney. Or if you have an advanced degree in planning. So I know those two, so that actually, I think 4 of you, 5. 2, sorry.
Clarification, Mr. Price,
There were, so there's 6 of the members.
that an attorney or an attorney admitted in South Carolina.
It says an attorney.
Okay, good.
It didn't say just attorney. Okay. So,
Any other items for discussion?
yeah, I think the only thing I want to point out, say this real quickly. I know one of the things that came up during one of our cases when we were looking at the economic development designation, want to make sure we point, kind of want to point this out because you're correct. One of the things you stated, we've had this discussion a lot. Everything is broadly painted. Ideally, for some of these corridors, we would have done more of an oval. So it goes along the main roads, but that's just not how that was done. So no, it is something that I think, as you stated, you should look at. That's the intent. We kind of identified this area, but it's up to, it's broadly identified. But the planning commission should look a little deeper into whether the appropriateness of that designation as it relates to specific parcels.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Final thoughts, words from my commission? That is going to be number 9. The chair would like to make a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Price, please take a roll of show of hands. Is that okay?
Those in favor of adjournment, Yankee,
Aye.
Frierson, Johnson, Dennis,
Aye.
Metz, Durant,
Aye.
Sturks,
Aye.
and Grady.
Aye.
You're dismissed. Thank you, everyone.